screenshot and I will show when it was incorrect and then forwarded to the email.
Okay, thank you very much, Leanne. We are out now to the point in the meeting where we have the opportunity for the public to address the Hooksett School Board.
Point of order.
Yes.
I have a motion before public input. It has to do with the rules of public input. I'd like to make a motion to add the following to guidelines for public comment at Hooksett School Board meetings. Can I have a second? Actually, this is the motion. It's adding number 5, which we have 4 so far, 4 rules for public input. Number 5 is comments must be addressed to the chair and must not be personal or derogatory about the chair or any other person or Hooksett School Board member. Questions cannot be directed to an individual Hooksett School Board member and must not be personal in nature. If I can get a second, I'll give you some background on that.
A second.
So, after being on the school board here for 10 months, I was starting to see a common theme on some of the public input sessions. We've had some really good ones, we've had some bad ones. And where either the Hooksett School Board members or the chair herself is being attacked in a personal and derogatory manner, and it is not good for the overall function of our board or for the relationships within our community. I've attended school board meetings in other towns and cities, but I could never put my finger on quite how to solve this problem. Then I realized it. It was not the chair's fault for not protecting the integrity of the board from these assaults on her or the members of the Hooksett School Board. It was because our policy lacked proper direction for her to follow. I did not have to look far and found similar rules at Manchester Board of School Committee and meetings and our own town council. The town council rules for public input read as follows, and they're short. 2 15-minute public input sessions will be allowed during each council meeting. Time will be divided equally among those wishing to speak. However, no person will be allowed to speak for more than 5 minutes. The next 2 are the ones that I took these pieces out of. No person may address the council more than twice on any issue at any meeting. Comments must be addressed to the chair and must not be personal or derogatory about any other person. Number 3 is any questions must be directly related to the topic being discussed and must be addressed to the chair only, who after consultation with the council and town administrator will determine if the question can be answered at all that time. Questions cannot be directed to an individual counselor and must not be personal in nature. And then it goes on with a bunch of other instructions. So in closing, I believe this will bring stability and order that we expect at the Hooksett School Board meeting, and will add to the rules that the chair is able to enforce when anyone steps out of line. And Hooksett School Board members will be able to call point of order to address any of these issues in the future. School board members should not have to display smiley faces anymore like I did. And to anybody that was offended by that at the last meeting, I apologize. Thank you.
Any discussion on this?
I would vote for this if we could apply the same rules to social media, which obviously we can't. The only public recourse folks have when folks are pounding them online is to come here and let their stuff be known. And it wasn't anything someone was doing wrong to it. They were actually quoting actual stuff that was presented to them. So that's the way I look at it.
Mr. Burns?
So Mr. Dembo brings up an interesting point. The business of the Hooksett School Board meeting is conducted in public at a Hooksett School Board meeting. Social media, Facebook, blogs, but this is the key. Interpersonal, face-to-face communication is worse than social media. And here's the reason why. Because nobody can trace what you say. You can say one thing to one person, another to another, and nobody can prove that you said it or you didn't say it. So social media is a step beyond that face-to-face interpersonal communication, because you can actually read it People can analyze it, they can pick the words, they can argue about it, they can call you out on it, but all it is a written word. It's the written spoken word. So spoken words are more dangerous to people because they can be said, it can be hearsay. So if you will, Facebook is just hearsay written down. The meeting of the Hooksett School Board is conducted right here when the chair opens the meeting, and then it closes when we all decide the meeting is closed and we vote on it to adjourn. That's the business I want to talk about, and I only want to talk about the public input session and the rules that we apply to that. If this board doesn't want to apply that rule, that's this board's decision. I brought up a motion, I gave you my reasons why. It came from the town council, which I think is a respected body in our community, and that's all I want to say about it. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Crowe.
Well, I certainly would support this motion, and I don't think that it makes logical sense to say that you would support this if we could make a rule about something we don't control. We don't control social media. That's not why we're elected. We're elected to be here, and I think we all would agree this board needs control. This adds to that control, so I would support it. The issues in social media can be solved in social media. Let's deal with the issues of Hooksett School Board.
It's typical that the chair remains neutral on items, but if the board is comfortable with my stating why I am in support or not in support of this, I will state my opinion. But as the chair, according to Robert's rules, I'm supposed to withhold what my reasoning is as often as I can. But it depends if the board is comfortable with my saying today.
Madam Chair, I think you've expressed your opinion on many topics at the school board. I don't think you have to start asking the board for your permission. If you want to speak to something, speak to it. I mean, that's what this board is about. We want to hear what your views are on it. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter.
I'm not opposed to it. I didn't have time to review it. However, our board, when policies are adopted, we do have a policy on public participation in board meetings, and the bottom of our agenda 1 through 4 actually come from policy BDPH, and I think that that is something that should be sent to the policy committee to be reviewed to make sure it is in line with what attorneys say you should have, what the New Hampshire School Board Association says with what I have. So at this time, I'm going to vote no. But if it does not pass, I am more than happy to take it to the policy committee. Yes, Mr. Crowe.
Well, Madam Chair, I think you really need to review the process that we make here. We are the governing body. When we vote on something, it is supposed to go to the policy committee to be incorporated into our policies. We've talked about this before. We have a number of things that we voted here that haven't been incorporated into policy and only exist in the minutes right now. And as that moves on, it gets really difficult for people to understand what we're doing. So the process should be that we make a decision here, goes to the policy committee, and that policy committee could then align it with laws, practices, so forth, and bring it back to us and ask us if that's what we want to accept. But if you say that you're going to bring it to the policy committee if it fails, I would disagree with that, because if this motion fails the board, it means that this board does not support it. So there would be no reason for it to go to the policy committee. That's my understanding of how policy committee works. Not that it creates the policy, but that it takes what we do and forms it into a policy that's consistent with everything else. So again, I support this motion because it will help to bring order to our process.
Mr. Leskars?
Basically, what David just said is exactly what I was going to say. The only thing I would add to it, kind of, I just realized today as I was writing this, I've been here 10 months, it's kind of surprising because I still feel new at this. But when you speak about the policy committee, I have searched for policy committee meeting minutes. Do they exist? Because I've never seen them. But I keep hearing us talk about having these policy committee meetings. And a meeting is a subcommittee of the school board, and it should be, under RSA 91A anyway, I think it should have meeting minutes and agendas and all that. So is that posted somewhere online, or is that recorded somewhere? Because we keep talking about it, but I've never seen it.
We haven't met since August 22nd.
Oh, okay. So this would be It doesn't matter anyway. What Mr. Pearl said is true. If we vote it down, there's nothing more to discuss. This board has made its decision. If we vote it yes, then we incorporate it into an existing policy and we get it into the reason I put number 5 is because we have 4 rules for public input. That would be number 5. And it comes right from verbiage out of the town council policy. It's not verbatim exactly, but it's very close.
Madam Chair, since you failed to answer Mr. Liscar's question about the policy committee, I'll answer it here. I've made the inquiry. There are no minutes of the policy committee. There are no postings for the policy committee. It is a clear violation of 91A, their subcommittee. So that is yet another reason that the policy committee should not be creating policy, but only making it conform to other policies.
Is there any more discussion on this motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
No.
Moving on to opportunity for the public to address the Hooksett School Board. Anyone would like to speak to the school board, please come up.
Jason Hyde, 36 Edgewater Drive. Excuse me. So I had a bit of a plan what to come up here and say, but after that whole debacle, you've kind of changed my mind about what I was going to speak about a little bit. I guess I'll start off by saying I love how the rules apply to some people but not to others. It's very interesting to me that certain people can come up here and make demands of this board that they get to speak for as long as they want to speak and no one gets to interrupt them. People get to attack other people frequently. And when a member of the board tries to have you guys apply a very basic rule that every other board in town uses, you say no. That's insanity. You're absolutely crazy. You're 190 degrees on phase with what reality ought to be. That is why people like me get frustrated with you guys. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to support it unless you can apply it to social media. Come on, man. That's just illogical and you know it. If you don't know it, then you shouldn't be sitting there. That was a stupid thing to say, period. You know darn well you people have no control over social media, and rightfully so. Welcome to America. I don't like it any more than you do most of the time. That's not the point. The point is that rule applies to everybody, equally and fairly to everybody. The chair, whoever it may be, gets to enforce it. For the chair not to support that rule is foolish. It gives you and subsequent chairs the power to control meetings so they don't get out of control. So that all the baloney that's been spinning around here for so many months, there's less chance of it happening. It helps take personalities out of things. It blows my mind that you guys just did that. One more thing that proves 3 of you don't belong on that board because you just don't know what you're doing. After all the time you sat there, you haven't learned anything about how this stuff is supposed to work.